Once upon a time, Mel Gibson was one of Hollywood's brightest stars. With his striking blue eyes, intense charisma, and magnetic presence, he captured the hearts of audiences across the globe. Born in 1956 in Peekskill, New York, and raised in Australia, Gibson blended American ambition with Australian resilience. His big break came in 1979 with Mad Max, a low-budget Australian film that quickly became a global phenomenon. As the iconic anti-hero Max Rokitansky, Gibson wasn't just playing a role. He was bringing to life a character shaped by real-world hardships. Over the next decade, Gibson's fame skyrocketed. In the 1980s, with films like Gallipoli, The Year of Living Dangerously, and Lethal Weapon, he showed his versatility, earning the adoration of millions. Fans embraced his blend of vulnerability and volatility, unaware of the personal struggles that would one day overshadow his career. Braveheart, the pinnacle of a Hollywood legend. By the mid-90s, Mel Gibson had reached the peak of his career. Braveheart, 1995, a film he directed and starred in, became the crown jewel of his filmography. Not only did the film win 5 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, but it also cemented Gibson's place as one of Hollywood's finest talents. The film was a passion project for Gibson, one that reflected his own internal struggles, torn between his public image and personal chaos. The physical and emotional toll of directing such an epic took its toll. But Gibson's commitment to the film never wavered. Braveheart wasn't just a career highlight, it was the culmination of years of hard work, a personal expression of his artistic vision. For a moment, Gibson was not just a star, he was an artist, and Hollywood recognized him as such. The struggles behind the success, Mel's hidden demons. While the world celebrated his triumphs, the cracks in Gibson's persona were already beginning to show. Behind the scenes, Mel was battling more than just the pressures of fame. The intense commitment to his work, combined with his desire for creative control, often led him to a place of isolation. He was known for his volatility, sometimes retreating into silence or lashing out in frustration when the pressure mounted. Despite his public persona as the golden boy of Hollywood, Mel Gibson was beginning to struggle with personal demons that would later become a major part of his public narrative. As a deeply religious Catholic and a father of 7, he seemed grounded in many ways, but the weight of fame, addiction, and trauma began to take a toll on his mental and emotional well-being. The Passion of the Christ, Triumph and Controversy. In 2004, Mel Gibson released The Passion of the Christ, a deeply personal, self-financed film that explored the final hours of Jesus Christ's life. The film was a box office phenomenon, shattering records and sparking both praise and controversy. While it was hailed by many for its intensity and emotional power, it also alienated critics and drew accusations of anti-Semitism. Gibson was once again at the center of a media storm, this time as both a visionary director and a polarizing figure. The Passion of the Christ represented the intersection of his artistic vision and personal beliefs, but it also marked the beginning of his public unraveling. Critics questioned his motives, and the intense scrutiny of the film mirrored the pressures Gibson had been feeling privately for years. Yet, the controversy only seemed to fuel his passion for filmmaking, despite the growing backlash. The Public Fall, a DUI arrest and anti-Semitic remarks. In 2006, Mel Gibson's life took a dramatic and devastating turn. A late-night DUI arrest in Malibu made headlines, not just because of the crime, but because of the anti-Semitic remarks he made during the arrest. The media exploded with outrage, and Hollywood quickly distanced itself from the actor. Mel, once beloved by millions, was now a pariah in the industry. His career, which had been built on years of hard work and dedication, seemed to collapse in an instant. The scandal was more than just an isolated incident. It was the manifestation of deeper, unresolved issues. Behind the public outburst was a man who had long struggled with alcoholism, addiction, and emotional pain. His words and actions that night were the culmination of years of buried trauma, and they left a permanent stain on his legacy. The tapes, a final blow to a deteriorating reputation. In 2010, Mel Gibson's life took another devastating turn when secretly recorded audio tapes of a heated argument with his then-girlfriend, Oksana Grigorieva, were leaked to the press. The tapes revealed a side of Gibson that was cruel, angry, and verbally abusive. His once loyal fans and supporters were horrified by the viciousness of the recordings. The media frenzy that followed only deepened the public's perception of him as a man unworthy of redemption. Gibson's reputation reached its lowest point, with allegations of abuse, legal battles, and restraining orders filling the headlines. To the outside world, Mel Gibson had become a monster, but few understood the personal demons he was battling. The combination of addiction, trauma, and personal guilt seemed to have finally consumed him. A quiet comeback, small roles, and independent projects. Despite the overwhelming public backlash, Mel Gibson never stopped working. He took on small roles, often in independent films, and quietly worked on rebuilding his career. He began directing again, though the industry was slow to forgive him. While some critics praised his performances in films, the shadow of his past continued to loom large. His attempts to regain his footing in Hollywood were met with mixed reactions. Some saw his return as a redemption story, while others believed he had never truly atoned for his past mistakes. Regardless of the public's opinion, Gibson continued to work, focusing on his craft rather than seeking fame. For him, the journey wasn't about reclaiming stardom. It was about personal survival and healing. Redemption, Hacksaw Ridge, and the glimmer of a revival in 2016, Mel Gibson made a triumphant return to directing with Hacksaw Ridge, a World War II film about a pacifist soldier who saved 75 men without ever firing a gun. The film was a critical success, earning 6 Academy Award nominations and 2 wins. Gibson himself was nominated for Best Director, marking a stunning reversal in his career. Hacksaw Ridge reminded the world of his cinematic brilliance, and the film's success gave a glimmer of hope to those who believed Gibson could still redeem himself. However, the applause was muted. While the industry recognized his talent, there was no grand celebration. Gibson's past continued to haunt him, and his return to the spotlight felt bittersweet. It was a career revival, but not the full return to grace he had once hoped for. The legacy of Mel Gibson, a complex journey. Mel Gibson at 70 is not the man he once was. He is a changed man, scarred by the mistakes of his past and still struggling with the weight of his actions. His journey is a complicated one, marked by incredible highs and devastating lows. There are those who still hold out hope for his redemption, while others believe he will never truly be forgiven. Yet, even in his darkest moments, Gibson has continued to work, quietly rebuilding his life and career. He has acknowledged his mistakes, sought help, and tried to make amends. In many ways, his story is a reminder of the complexities of fame, the fragility of the human spirit, and the difficulty of finding true redemption. Despite the flaws and failures that have defined his journey, Mel Gibson remains a man who refuses to give up, still striving to make peace with his past.